There you go.
How's that?
No, now it looks like a hat.
Oh, look. Oh. No, thank you.
All right, there you go.
How's that? Can you see it on the floor?
Yeah. Nope, you're fine. It's fine. It just looked like it was on top of your head.
Yeah, I don't need a halo. Not today, anyway.
Okay, folks, we are connected to Facebook now. So we've got a few minutes while our candidates are joining us. I am going to the webinar live.
I'm gonna go text Alma and see where she's at.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. McConnell.
Good afternoon. How are you all?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. I'm just making sure I'm in with all the technical requirements of this COVID necessity. What a challenge.
And the challenge is ever evolving too, isn't it?
Oh, we're learning more and more about what we didn't know.
So we're gonna make sure everybody's joined us before we jump into giving our instructions. What I'd like to tell everybody at the outset of this, there's a feature on the Zoom webinar that includes Q&A. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box. The Q&A window is where we ask attendees to post questions. If they have questions during the event, they can ask them in the Q&A. It's completely up to you whether or not you answer these questions, but it does give you another level of interaction with attendees if you so choose. So if you click on it right now, you'll notice there's no open questions in the box, but attendees will be directed to any questions that they have to pose them there.
James, Hakeem said he's in the audience. Can you
bump him? Yes. Yeah, here we go. I will elevate them to panelists. There we go.
Okay. I don't have a Q&A. I've got a chat box. Is that the same thing?
No, you should at the bottom of your screen, you should see participants, and then you don't see Q&A and polls, you just see chat.
The chat is in the drop down box. Yeah, I don't see anything that says Q&A anywhere.
Do you see, Robert, at the bottom of your screen, do you see the green button that says new share? Look to the left of it.
I see a share connect. Mine's at the top of the screen, it looks like. Maybe it says share connect with a green box and a black arrow.
Okay, to the left of that, it should say Q&A.
Oh, yeah, far left. Okay, I see it now. Great, thank you. All right, we're in.
All right, so let's see who we have on right now. So, hello, Hakeem. Welcome. So we have Robert, Hakeem, Avenel. We're still waiting for John and Cornisha. So we'll give them a couple more minutes here. All right. Hello, Alma. She's with us as well. Let's see if John's in the audience.
James, is it Alma or Leo? I just saw Leo.
Yeah, no, Alma is our person tonight. Leo's the backup and to help out if anything is needed. And Alma will be representing the Hispanic Chamber. So candidates, again, if you look down at the Q&A or at the box, you'll notice there is a question in there. And you get the gist of how that works. You can see type answer and answer live. Just type your answer and respond if you choose to. So again, there's no requirement. It's just an option. It's because of this technology, it does afford us, some different level of interaction with our attendees, which is nice, but it's up to you guys on how much you want to interact when you're also asking, or you're also answering our questions. Still waiting on Cornisha and John. What time is it? Okay, we got about one more minute here, and then hopefully our Chamber, this is James. I think you have the wrong number. This is the Chamber of Commerce. Yes. Oh, John. Yes. Yeah. As soon as you can connect, we're ready to get started here. So go ahead and phone in, and I'll look for your number and put you to audio. Yeah, I assume that's correct. Okay. Thank you. All right, folks, let's see here. Okay. So John Kenny, one of our candidates, is having some technical difficulties of his own. He's going to call in and continue trying to get his video to work. So we're going to look for him. And we're still waiting for one more candidate, but we don't want to wait too much longer. So is everybody ready to get started here? All good? Yes? Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is James Cooper. I'm the President and CEO of the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce. And I'd like to welcome our candidates, our moderators, and all of our attendees to our Vallejo City Candidate Forums. Tonight, our forum is for the Mayor of Vallejo. And the forum is being brought to you by the Vallejo Chambers Political Action Committee, known as ValPAC, and the Vallejo Chambers Alliance, which is an alliance of our 4 local chambers, the Solano County Black Chamber of Commerce, the Solano County Philam Chamber of Commerce, the Solano County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and the Vallejo City Chamber of Commerce, who put this on as a public service. Our moderators for tonight's event are Kay Patrice Williams, Vice President of the Solano County Black Chamber of Commerce, Sue Vaccaro, the Vice President of the Solano County Philam Chamber of Commerce, Alma Hernandez, the President of the Solano County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and myself, James Cooper, the President and CEO of the Vallejo City Chamber of Commerce. So I will start by giving you the format, which I have already sent to our panelists, or I will go over it again so we're all on the same page. So this is a scheduled 90-minute event. We expect it to take a little longer than 90 minutes, but it should not take 2 hours. The event is viewable on the Chamber's Facebook Live page right now. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statements. They'll have 90 seconds for each of the questions that we ask, and then 2 minutes for your closing statement. We expect to ask 10 total questions today. The timer on your screen you see right now, a screen share. As we move through the event, the screen share will change, and on each screen you will see your question, and there will be a timer on that. The timer will help guide you in keeping your statements confined to the time limit. If you do run long, we ask that you close your statement on time or finish your sentence wherever you're at that point. And we have somebody who will remind you of this. For our attendees, thank you again for joining us tonight. Attendees, if you have any questions for our candidates, we ask that you post them in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Any questions entered in chat, we will not be looking at, but the candidates do have the option to look at the Q&A box. And if there's any questions that they would like to answer, they can do so by text. So are there any questions from the candidates before we get started? No questions? Okay, so the order for tonight, we are going to be going in alphabetical order by last name, which means our first respondent will be Hakeem Brown, followed by M. Avenel Hanley Mills. Now, you would just like to be called Avenel, correct? And then our third respondent will be John Kenny. John right now is on audio, and he will hopefully get his camera working here shortly. And then he will be followed by Robert McConnell, and then Cornisha Williams-Bailey will be our fifth respondent. Question order will be asked first by Sue Vaccaro, followed by Kay Patrice Williams. Alma Hernandez will ask the third question, and I will ask the fourth question. To get us started, we will go ahead and start with our candidate opening statements. And for that, we'd like to start with Hakeem Brown. Hakeem, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to the Chambers for hosting this, and thank you to everyone who's tuned in. My name is Hakeem Brown. I am a Vallejo Council member. I am also a business owner, Vallejo business owner for over 10 years, a delegate for the Democratic Party, second vice president of the NAACP, as well as the legislative chair of the African American Caucus for the California Democratic Party, and a delegate for the Democratic Party. But most importantly, I'm a Vallejoan. I grew up here. I went to school here. I've seen its ups and downs here, and I've watched our community go in the wrong direction for the last decade. Murder is up over 100%. Shootings are up 300%. Our homeless population is exploding, and there's trash everywhere. Tonight, you're going to hear about what people will do, but I'm the only candidate running for mayor who can talk about what I've done and what actions I've taken. Whose claim to fame isn't what I voted no on, but the actual work that I've done. The consensus I built to get things done, not only in my time on council, but even before then. I'm the only candidate to host weekly COVID-19 workshops for seniors, small businesses, those who are unemployed, and parents and students. I'm the only candidate who's taken concrete steps to address public safety for this community and bring in the Advanced Peace Project. I'm the only candidate to make growing youth opportunities a tier 1 priority for this city. I'm the only candidate to address affordable housing and champion rent control here in this community so that Vallejoans can stay in their homes. I'm the only candidate who hosts regular community cleanups right here in our community throughout this community. I'm the only candidate who hosts monthly town halls right there in your neighborhoods every single month. I've never missed a month. Even during COVID, I host Zoom town halls. I'm right there in your community. I'm the only candidate who spends regular time at the Vallejo School District, looking to see how the city can work with our school district to improve the success of our students. And I'm the only candidate who has the courage, backbone, and tenacity to move the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem. So next up with our opening statement, Avenel, you have 2 minutes. Okay, unmute yourself, Avenel. There you go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. And I'm Avenel Hanley Mills, and I'm a transformative advocate. I've lived in Vallejo for over 21 years. I have been a part of many parts of Vallejo, nonprofit sector in families, education, housing, homelessness, mental health. As a city, we are in a unique path. The next movement must be forward. And acknowledging the challenges of our past, naval-based closure, bankruptcy, implementing best practices as preventatives and not our constant crisis management. To achieve success, consistent and permanent economic development, to benefit all areas of the city infrastructure, education, beautification, maintenance, housing, entertainment, public relations, safety, youth, seniors, and those experiencing disability, and the LGBT community. The systemic inequality and inequality cycle must cease. Creating a government team to prioritize the city's growth is critical. Our city budget gives over 75 million to departments of safety and law enforcement. However, the fire department, communication equipment is use and agent. Our city has a new management team. However, our citizens are exhausted with the violence and trust. They've sat patiently at times with hope, currently viewing division by those placed to govern. Change is imperative. Our city needs social change, overturning the passivity of dormancy in our government, bringing our city and people to its rebirth united. Thank you for this opportunity for our community to have a voice. and a choice.
Thank you, Avanel. So now we will move on to John Kenny. John, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement. Need you to unmute yourself, sir. John. There you go.
Is that good?
There you go.
You're okay?
Yep.
Yes, this is John Kenny. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for the city and to the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event. It's been so inspiring to meet so many good candidates out there and so many people out in the field. As I go through farmers markets and go door to door, it's really inspiring to see so many people who really want to see a better Vallejo. It's been so disappointing going by the city hall and city council in particular. I won't say all of city hall, the city council, and just seeing the same old status quo and people who won't represent us as we go to city hall with great ideals like voter participation, like reforming the police, like clean green energy, which I had to work around the city council who wouldn't do a thing about it and go straight up. I got people from Al Gore's in Richmond from the Progressive Alliance. I'm an original member of the California Progressive Alliance. We got directly to the mayor, directly to the city manager. We got them to put it on the agenda after speaking in front of the city council several times and them just ignoring us. And we finally got a unanimous vote. But why do we have to work so hard with the do-nothing city council, which won't bring these forward? I'd like to also introduce myself. I lived over in Japan. I met my wife there. She's a nurse. She's a coordinator at a number of the hospitals around here and works at UCSF. She's a frontline worker against COVID-19. We'd make sure we brought healthy aspects here to Vallejo. I'm really in this as a mayor because I feel running for mayor because I feel we need a new vision for Vallejo. We need real change. We can't really put up with the status quo, which is going on in city council, which just doesn't want to do anything except protect their special interests, except take a whole bunch of money from outside and then getting tricks to their buddies and things of that nature. We need change here. We don't need the same old, same old. Thank you for hearing me. And John Kenny, 2020, please.
Thank you, John. So next for opening statements, Mr. Robert McConnell. Robert, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper, the panelists, and to Vallejo and other chambers of commerces. It's been my honor to speak with you tonight and share with you why I believe I am the
which
right.
won't bring these forward. I'd like to also introduce myself.
Share with you why I believe that I am the proper choice for mayor of Vallejo. For the first 2 years when I was on council, I was part of a majority. And during that time, we did bring a number of substantial changes to the city that were long overdue and much needed. It included participatory budgeting and also the creation of the Citizens Advisory Committee for Reform in the Police Department. Many of those changes were accomplished through that committee. After that, the majority changed, and it has been in that capacity for the last 7 years. So as a minority member, what I've tried to do is gain traction with a lot of ideas, but it's not always working. And what I'm finding is that while I have always advocated for a change in the police department, and I've spoken on it since 2011, I don't find that accepted throughout the entirety of the council. There's also a lack of openness, not only amongst council members, but even staff. Our budget motivates me considerably. As you all know, I'm a financial services lawyer, and I see us heading back to where we were in 2008 when the city started to enter into bankruptcy. But above all, I bring to the council an air of professionalism. I'm very calm. I'm very focused. I'm polite. I listen well. I analyze things well. I take balanced opinions and try to obtain balanced positions. And that really is what a mayor's position is all about. It's not the same as being on the council. Now you are the representative of the city. You have to bring in all competing factions on the council. You must permit them to express their views completely. And I believe that with my training in mediation, my personality, my balanced approach, I am the best suited of the candidates who are running. The other thing that a mayor can do.
Thank you, Robert. You've reached the end of your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For our last candidate for opening statements, Cornisha Williams Bailey. Cornisha, you have 2 minutes. You need to unmute yourself, please. That's okay. Not unmuting. There we go.
Okay, is that better now?
Yes, 2 minutes. You muted yourself again.
All right, I think I got it this time.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Cornisha Williams Bailey, and I'm here to serve you and bring innovation, improvement, and inclusion to this beautiful city and beautiful melting pot that we call Vallejo. I am a wife and country girl who started on a farm as a child, and I became a foster youth who overcame obstacles with hard work, sweat, and tears. And however, I refused to give up, and by the age 21, I became a business owner and contracted with Alameda County Social Services as an operations manager and have managed over 6,000 employees and cases. Listen, folks, I'm here with fresh eyes to old problems, and it's worth having someone with fresh eyes to help look toward the future of our home, Vallejo. But most importantly, and especially, I'm here to prove that we are exceptional and that we are a light on a hill and that we stand out from every Bay Area city. We have a chance to be something bigger, better, and greater than any other city in this region. And I want to repeat that. I want to say this again. I have a board so you guys don't forget. Innovating, improving, and including is key for us to build this city. And I will be your voice. I will listen to the voice of the people. And I don't have I don't have any alliances. I don't have any endorsements that are going to make me feel like I have to do something better and besides what you need me to do. Thank you so much for this great opportunity, and thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for putting this on and collaborating together. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cornisha. So that concludes our opening statements. We will now move into question number 1. Question number 1, we will start with Avenel Hanley Mills, and it will be asked by Sue Vaccaro. Sue?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, candidates, for joining us this evening. And to those watching from home, thank you very much as well. The first question is to, again, Avenel. What are you going to do to clean up Vallejo? Avenel, you're muted.
Yes, that's a great question. What to do to clean up Vallejo? I think it's a 3-part. Working with Vallejo maintenance team is critical. Looking to see where it's needed, and also working with the community. One of the things that I think it's important is to make Vallejo clean part of the language that we speak to our citizens, and also look, implementing policies and ordinances that addresses those who litter. There's a lot of people that come into our city that litter our community, and it's important to address those situations. But I think looking at it as a team, because the only way we're going to make Vallejo cleaner is doing it together. And so working with our government, the maintenance department, and our community, and also, looking at who's bringing in those extra dumping behaviors. And so, as a community, really getting together and prioritizing what we want for our city in terms of it being clean. And we have to do it in those 3 parts by looking at all areas of the community and working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Avenel. Next up is John. John, what are you going to do to clean up Vallejo? John, are you there?
So if we're having technical difficulties, let's go ahead and skip past John and go to the next one.
Okay. Robert, what are you going to do to clean up Vallejo?
Well, several years back, all of those green garbage cans you see around town, those came about because I sat down with the city manager at the time and asked him to implement that program, and he did. I've also made the same request to the present city manager, but it has not yet produced any results. I believe we need to bring back the beautification award that was given to people who do take care of their premises. We also need to remove from code enforcement the lieutenant and sergeant's position, which will free up some funds that we could use to address these issues through the code enforcement and the building department as well. I think that the program on See-Click Fix needs to be improved. It's difficult for some people to use and they give up in frustration. We can provide garbage bags for the homeless so that they will pick up their garbage, and some of them do with the garbage bags given to them by citizens. And then we have to have the city dedicate itself to actually picking them up. When we negotiated the Recology contract, we went up to 2 free pickups per year for people. I was the one who insisted upon that, and we can go back down to 1 in order to free up more dumpsters for neighborhood associations. More than anything else, we need to listen to the code enforcement board that is going to review this matter shortly, adopt their recommendations, and also adopt a street cleaning program. So there are a number of things that can be done and should be done, but it will require the consent of the entire council, not just an individual person, mayor, or council member. So if we work together as a council, we can accomplish that. And I hope it will happen.
Thank you, Robert. Next is Cornisha. Cornisha, what are you going to do to clean up Vallejo?
Yes. Okay. I think the See-Click Fix is already a very good system that we have in place. Also, we have a very good, well, we do have street sweeping. I just think that we need to improve that with more consistent street sweeping and scheduling. I've noticed that it's kind of sporadic. The street sweepers come and you never know they're coming. And it also leads to cars being left on the side of the street. And I think we need to have more community engagement and kind of adopt that overall. It takes a village code. So I think having community watch to partner with us in keeping our neighborhoods clean would be great. Getting our youth involved, getting our children involved, that our families involved would be a great idea. And I think high surveillance for high dump areas needs to happen. And definitely we need to get that money back into the city. We need to cite people who just need to, give citations for those who are littering and those who are not caring about our community.
Thank you, Cornisha. Hakeem, what are you going to do to clean up Vallejo?
Thank you. As your mayor, in the first 60 days of my time as mayor, I will direct the city manager to use staff to clean up this entire city, not just some parts, but the entire city. North Vallejo and South Vallejo will be just as clean as Hidden Brook and other rich parts of Vallejo. I think that it's also very important that we take a look at why some parts of the city are clean and some aren't. The entire city needs to be a focus when it comes to ensuring that our city is staying clean. I will focus on economic development so that we can increase staff, so that we can regularly make sure that our streets are clean, because that's the key, economic development. We'll also create a program for disadvantaged workers so that they can actually get back on their feet and work and actually contribute to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem.
Thank you. John, are you back with us again? I see your screen is off, but can you unmute and answer that question? Okay. Okay, so I've instructed John to see if he can maybe log out and log back in, and hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us shortly. Before we move on to question number 2, I'd like to remind all of our attendees that for any questions that you have, please do not add them to the chat box. Please add them into the Q&A box. And then for our candidates, if you are so of such a mindset that you would like to answer those questions, they are available to you. You click on your own Q&A box, and then you will see that you can you can answer whichever questions that you choose to. So let's move on to question number two. Question number two, we would normally start off with John, but since he's not here, let's go ahead and start with Robert on this, and it will be asked by Kay Patrice Williams.
Good evening, everyone, audience members and mayoral candidates. Greetings from the Solano County Black Chamber of Commerce. The next question is, what is your position regarding binding arbitration, which was once a part of the city charter? We'll be starting with you, Robert.
Thank you, Kate Patrice. I think it's important to refresh or maybe even inform some people as to what binding arbitration in the Vallejo Charter actually was, because it was many years ago when that fight occurred. What it was a charter amendment, a law that required binding arbitration on issues concerning wages as well as working conditions. As a result of that, it forced the city into the position where if they didn't agree with the demands of the safety union, they had to go to arbitration. The arbitration was always conducted by a third party outside person who was more interested in the interests of the unions and did not know anything at all usually about the local lay of the land. As a result, salaries got increased, which was at the same time that Governor Brown was increasing the salaries throughout the state. The result was the city had to pay more and more and more, and it got to the point where it caused council members of those days to be fearful to even take on something that they didn't agree with in the way of a demand for salary or working conditions. Today, having that in the charter would be a tremendous disadvantage to the citizens and to the city because of our economic times. We're only at 77% recovery rate in the economy in California compared to where we were pre-COVID. And we're just about back to the regular status quo. A lot of those people aren't going to come back. If we put binding arbitration back in the charter, it will lead us back into Chapter 9 bankruptcy without any doubt whatsoever. So I am against it. I'm adamantly against it, and I will stay that way. This is a bad idea.
Thank you. Cornisha, same question. What is your position regarding binding arbitration?
Thank you, Ms. Williams. I am in favor of whatever the voters have voted, and they voted no on this arbitration, the binding arbitration. I have heard that it has been a benefit to some people. However, it has been voted on, and I'm going to stick with what the voters have said. Their voices will remain.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I'm not cutting you off.
No, that's it. Thank you so much, Ms. Williams.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question goes to Hakeem. Same question. What is your position regarding binding arbitration?
Thank you, and how are you doing, Ms. Williams? So as far as I'm concerned, the will of the people have already spoken. We've moved past that, and we're not going back when it comes to binding arbitration. That being said, I think that it's been used as a scapegoat to somehow justify bankruptcy, as well as using our public safety unions. And I think that that was a mistake. We went into bankruptcy due to weak leadership, due to paralysis by analysis and lack of economic development in our community. From my understanding, binding arbitration was only used 2 times in 30 years. So it couldn't be the only cause of us going into bankruptcy. Quite simply, we didn't do enough to create revenue, and we have not done enough to create revenue since. And that needs to change. So I think that once again, we can't use it as a boogeyman. We have to learn from it. The will of the people is already there. We've moved beyond that, but now we still are dealing with those same issues when it comes to creating revenue in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Avenel, what is your position regarding binding arbitration?
Thank you. I concur that, our residents have spoken, and that's not something that they want. I do think, though, that looking at all areas in terms of working with, our community and our workers is important, and how we speak to making livable environment for everyone. So I think even though it's a no, I think we have to look at how do we come together to make our citizens more successful economically. And also, I mean, I think that one of the things that we have to look at is not necessarily look, you know, our bankruptcy. We had an economic development research in 2012, and the same issues that was stated in that our report is the same challenges that we're having now that had nothing to do with arbitration. And so that's something that we have to really look at, that it's not what we do, but how we're doing it. And if we're doing it effectively, everything can be included or excluded. But if it's not done effectively, things will be eliminated. That can hurt us. And we really have to look at how do we as a city move forward with prosperity, and not just prosperity for a minority, a prosperity for the majority.
Thank you. John, I believe you're live now. Our question is, what is your position regarding binding arbitration? Unmute yourself, John. Let's give it another try. Unmute yourself, John. Okay, one final try. John, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, while John's trying to work on his connection issue, give him one more second here. You with us, John? We can't hear you. Okay, I'm sorry, John, I have to move on to the next question. Okay, so we're gonna move on to question number 3, and question number 3 will be presented to the candidates by Alma Hernandez. Alma?
Good evening, everyone. This is Alma from the Solano Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. The first question is for Cornisha. How would you involve, communicate with, and receive feedback from local businesses before you make decisions that impact them?
Yeah, I believe that we need to definitely communicate more with our local small businesses. I mean, just businesses in general, but especially are affected by the COVID-19, you know, and I believe that the best thing to do is to give them calls. We have a database of information, a wealth of information of how to reach them, and we should reach out to them, find out how there's any ways that we can support them, and also if there's any ideas that they have on how we can better help them to do well within their own communities, in the communities that they're serving and they're doing business. But I definitely believe that, you know, we shouldn't make any decisions. We should consistently. We should be working very closely with Vallejo Chamber of Commerce.
Cornisha, it sounds like we cannot hear you anymore. Can you try again? And
It looks like we've lost Cornisha for the moment, so she will try to sign back in, and let's go ahead and move to the next.
thank you. We're going to move on to Hakeem. Hakeem, how would you involve, communicate with, and receive feedback from local businesses?
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. That's a great question. That's something that I do currently. Number one, when I'm making decisions, particularly decisions that I know affect businesses. I reach out to our chamber just to get some feedback. Businesses here know that I have an open door policy. If you're dealing with an issue, not only will you get an email back or a call back, but I will make sure that we address it, whether it's dealing with planning department during the COVID crisis or any other issue having. The city of Vallejo, we really need our small businesses. We depend on small businesses to be successful, though that has not been a focus. As your mayor, you will find me knocking on your door. I will be knocking on every business's door the way mayors used to do it, reaching out to you instead of having to come to me about your issues. I'll be reaching out to you to find out what exactly are you dealing with and how can the city support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Avanel, how would you involve, communicate with, and receive feedback from local businesses?
Our local business is a backbone of our community. And I think visibility is crucial in engaging what are the things that they need from our government. And I believe in citizen committee where, you know, we have all our local businesses come together and really discuss with our governing board what is needed. That's necessary because I think as a community, we have not made priority or given priority to our small businesses. And we have a potential that is vast. And COVID has definitely caused, you know, a hurt in those businesses that was already hurting. And we have to be innovative in the way that we work with our small businesses and create grants and create structures so that they are able to bounce back and become more successful. I think that, you know, highlighting our small businesses on all government media is crucial. All new businesses, creating a platform for every single business that is in our community, because that says to our neighbors and to our citizens, we value our small business.
Thank you. John, the question for you as well is, how would you involve, communicate with, and receive feedback from local businesses? Can you unmute yourself, John? I'll try one more time. John, can you unmute yourself? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to Robert. Robert, how would you involve, communicate with, and receive feedback from
well, having been the liaison of the Planning Commission, I hear from businesses all the time in their permitting process. There are many things that they complain about, and my door has always been open. I receive phone calls. I'm really good about returning emails and correspondence. But one of the things is, as a mayor that's different is that you are the first contact person often that businesses reach, either because it's the mayor or because it's right next to the planning department. So I would have an open door policy or an appointment available policy for them. I would also organize every business in town by category, because if something might be appealing to a florist shop, it might not be appealing to a tire shop. So you have to know whom to reach out to, and I would organize that to do that as well. I would meet personally, both upon a regular basis and upon an appointment basis. I would interview people and put them on television through channels 28 and channels 27, the government channels, and DCAT, because we don't adequately use those resources as a city. And by exposing people to the community as to what they do, it will encourage more people to come forward. So communication is very, very needed. The chambers are very excellent at doing that, but not everyone are members of the chambers. So as to those smaller groups of people and individuals, they'll have to make a special effort to basically find them and establish a correspondence address and method with them, because they won't initiate that on their own.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Cornisha for this question because she was cut off as she was answering that. Cornisha?
Thank you. Yeah, so I really believe in making sure that I'm really big on data analysis and tracking and surveying. So I really don't feel comfortable unless I have that information and data in anyway. So I really believe that having a budget available for that was available not to our community in general, but definitely for our businesses, that we can send out information like a list of things we're planning to do in order for them to respond to by phone, by email, just letting them know, hey, these are the ideas we have. What are your ideas? And until we look at all of that, we don't make a decision or we don't even consider it. And definitely, like I said, having consistent forums just for businesses online. I know they can't come out and be in person all the time, but aside from city council, we definitely need to have like a forum that we do weekly, bi-weekly. And I think with collaboration and help with the different chambers of commerces, such as the Black, Hispanic, and Filipino, working collaboratively with the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce, that is very doable. And I think it will create great morale and great business partnerships as well, and support that is needed for those businesses and as well. Thank you for allowing me to continue. Thanks. Thanks, Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you. And I'm wondering if John has been able to unmute himself before. Okay. All right, we'll continue on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and move on to question number 4. And for question number 4, that's going to be my question to ask. And it will be posed to Hakeem Brown. Hakeem, what should the city do to create, excuse me, hold on one second, Hakeem. Let me back up. John, are you with us now? Yeah, John, I'm sorry, your connection is just not working out for you right now. Perhaps try without the video and maybe that would work better. Okay, well, John's working on that. Hakeem, let's go ahead and move forward with question number 4. What should the city do to create a thriving commercial and retail business climate in Vallejo? Did we just ask this question?
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
I think that number one, if we want to create a thriving business climate, we have to be a city that is open for business. For too long, this city has not been open for businesses. Businesses have tried to come in and we have wavered and ended up not doing anything. Once again, paralysis by analysis for the last decade. People putting their finger to the wind and saying, should I be for this or should I not be for this? We as a city have to be able to be a city that's known for keeping its word. We need to be able to lead and tell what type of businesses we want in this community and work with them for them to be successful. I think that we have to take a hard look at our zoning. We no longer can blame landlords for our problems. Quite frankly, if it would pencil out, developers would come in. It does not pencil out right now. So we have to take a hard look at our zoning and make it so that it will allow for developers to be successful here and businesses to be successful here. We have a beautiful downtown area right on the waterfront with a ferry sitting right there where people get off and on every day and go to, before the pandemic, Giants games. And we have not done enough to attract those people from out of town to get them to come into our downtown corridor. To do that, we are going to have to be business friendly. We are going to have to take a hard look at tax breaks to get businesses into our community. But most importantly, we have to be pro-business. We have not been pro-business in decades, and that's a problem. That is what we need to do from the planning department to the mayor's office to city council.
Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Avanel,
yes.
What should the city do to create a thriving commercial and retail business climate in Vallejo?
That's such a wonderful question. I think that we have to speak and, how we speak about ourselves, it's how others are going to speak about us. And if we call our city awful, who wants to go to an awful city? We have a beautiful city, and we have to start with that. We have to start with the language. We have to start with the attitude, and then we start with the behavior. Because, you know, inviting businesses to come to our city, and yet we put our city down, that's not helpful. Because we can invite a business, we need traffic. And there's so many ways that we need to, as a city, speak positive about who we are. So businesses would want to come to our community. I mean, there's a lot of other things that we can attract them with: zoning, you know, code enforcement, and all those sort of things that we can do to alleviate some of the challenges that new businesses have in coming to our city. But including all of that, we as a city must step up, and as a government team, and say, we are here, and we invite you. And we need to invite businesses, and not just businesses that we feel. Listen to the community on what we need and what we have to have. But definitely the language. We can do many things, but without that language, it's not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Avenel. Thank you. Okay, I know John's still trying to work through these. We'll ask again, John, if you're able to unmute yourself. Okay, it doesn't look like it's working for you to unmute. So we'll move on to Robert McConnell. Mr. McConnell, excuse me, Robert, what should the city do to create a thriving commercial and retail business climate in Vallejo?
There we go. iPad's hard to do. The city's actually come a long ways, but it has so much more to go. Ever since I joined the Planning Commission, I realized that the planning building process was too long and too complicated. I've sat on the desk of Mr. Keene and now Mr. Nyhoff to change that, and it has gotten better, but it needs to improve even more. We can take a look at the cost of building permits, particularly for those infill lots where we want to have developed, and see if we can reduce them to work with the applicant so that they have to pay less money up front. We can create a business incubator where we teach people how to be business people in a reduced rent building made available through the city. We need to increase the population of the city so that there's a base to buy services and goods that doesn't currently exist. We need to really expand and have the mayor involved in the buy local program. Chamber of Commerce has done that, but the mayor can add a big punch to it by going on social media and on the television channels and interviewing people to show people what is available. But we need to convince in the minds of people that they need to go to that extra effort to come back to Vallejo to buy their taxable goods. But if they're on empty and they're in Cordelia, they keep driving to get to a Vallejo office. We can look at federal and state funding and take advantage of them where it's possible. That comes with strings. I led the charge to get the alfresco dining established with the city manager's cooperation when we started COVID. There are some tax issues that have to be looked at by the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you. So we're going to try now with John. I think we've got an audio connection with you, John. John, if you can, what should the city do to create a thriving commercial and retail business climate in Vallejo?
John, you're currently unmuted. We can see that you're unmuted. Can you hear us?
Okay. Thank you, John. I don't know how else to do this. Let's move on to Cornisha. Cornisha.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cooper. So I have quite a lot to say. I'll try to get it in quickly. Well, I first think we need to invest into our youth, and we need to invest into our young adults and those who are low income. I believe that if we invest into mentorship, internships in the business and teaching them how to start their own businesses at young ages, as I did at age 21, I think it will create first a culture of young people who are excited about this community and they want to stay here, invest here, and build here. That's important, that's key. I think we also need to look, we already have great resources such as a small business microloan that the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce has already advertised. That's a great opportunity. So that's really exciting. There's so many small businesses now that can be developed. But I really want to just, I believe that we need to focus on small businesses, that's key. But for commercial businesses, we need to look outside of Vallejo. We need to bring in a lot of these people who are coming from overseas, their businesses that they had overseas. Let's just say, you know, Vallejo is a place where we want to do business. Let's make a name for Vallejo. Let's make it the city of holistic medicine. Let's make it the city of great, just we'll call it a name, Made in Vallejo. Why, let's just Made in Vallejo, something made in Vallejo, whatever you want made or whatever you want done. We could do that here in Vallejo. So definitely bringing, there's a great program or great business called the Melting Pot Patriots. And this is a great opportunity for people of all ethnic backgrounds to be able to do business in this city, despite where they're from. And we can cut on those fees. We can cut back on fees and taxes, and we can give them about a year or so to get them on their feet, get their business established, and then they'll pay us back.
Thank you, Cornisha. Thank you. John, are you with us now? Yeah, your sound feed is just not coming through, John. We're just not hearing any. Is anybody hearing anything?
It looks like he may have low Wi-Fi connectivity where he is located, because he's currently unmuted and we can see him. So he's visual. He has access to, we have access to being able to hear him. So if he can hear us, I would recommend that he call in.
Okay. I'm sorry, John, that I don't know how else to do this. So we're going to keep going with question number 5 now. So for question number 5, we're going to have Sue ask the question. Sue, you'll be starting with Avenel.
Okay, can we move it? There you go. Thank you. So Avenel, what is your position on Measure G?
My position on Measure G is I think it's important for us to look at our community and what benefits our community. Measure G does not benefit our community. And, the economic prosperity of all our residents is crucial. And for, as mayor, that's the number one thing that I look at. Whatever we bring to our city, how does this benefit all our residents? How does this bring to a successful path for our residents to bounce back from challenges, and those who are doing okay do better? And Measure G does not support that. It doesn't assist our community members who need assistance in increasing their success. And so Measure G, I don't support it. One of the things that I think we need to look at as a community is how all our communities are succeeding. And if one community is not succeeding, the rest of the community is not succeeding. And that's the way we have to look at bringing in any type of measures or positions. That this is not about one area being successful or one population being successful. If one population is not, and this does not assist those residents, then it's nothing that we should agree on. Because right now, Vallejo, in this process, really needs to look at the benefit of all our residents, benefits our city, not the benefit of some of our residents, the benefit of all our cities. And any type of proposition that comes in should not be agreed upon that does not include all our residents. And this has been a challenge for Vallejo. Vallejo has had success in some areas, but not in many of the areas that says that all our citizens is valuable.
Thank you, Avenel. John, I don't know if you can hear me, but I know that Alma just posted a phone number And I saw you were on your phone. Were you able to call in? Can you hear us? Okay, I guess not. So we're going to move on to Robert. Robert, what is your position on Measure G?
As you know, I voted not to put it onto the ballot, and I did help write the argument on the ballot in opposition to it. It's the wrong thing at the wrong time for the wrong purpose. If it's increased, it will take us up to 9.125%. The highest by state law we can have is 9.25%. We will see tax bleed to our surrounding communities, unlike we have ever seen before. If this is denied, it would leave 0.725% available. And last year, the California State Supreme Court decided the Upland decision, and that was followed up about 3 weeks ago by a denial on a request in the Schulman case. What that says is that if you want to have a special tax, which will be dedicated to a specific purpose, then a citizen-based initiative can put that on the ballot, and it will only require a majority vote. To my way of thinking, if we're going to be honest with the voters, we should have a special tax. Voters should know what they're going to get. Otherwise, the same thing is going to happen as what happened with Measure B the last time, and it will go down that black hole of anything and everything, because a general tax can be used for anything that is proper to be spent on by the general fund. I believe as council members, we have a higher duty to our citizens to be open and honest with them, and we're not doing that with this. So I'm against it. The other thing people need to realize is this is also a use tax, which means if you buy something somewhere and you use it in this city, you're supposed to self-report and pay that tax on that transaction.
Thank you, Robert. Next is Cornisha. Cornisha, what is your position on Measure G?
I believe that at first I would say no. But here's my dilemma with this is that, you know, the reason that we have a $14 million reserve currently is because we have these kind of measures, I guess something similar to Measure B. But the thing about it is that when we're going out here looking for grants for the city, we need to show that we can match what we're asking for. And so I have to say, for this measure, I'm gonna have to say no. But I just feel like Mr. McConnell did say, I believe that there needs to be a special, a special measure, special tax, that the people really understand where that money is being allocated to. But we do need to have something in place where we are taxing, because if we're strong, we can do it. We're gonna make our money, you guys. We're gonna be good. But we need to have ability to bring money in, and we need to be able to manage our budget that we have, not depending solely on our citizens and on our businesses to bring that money in. So we want to put something else out there, just not this. This is not appropriate, but I think we are fighters. We can make it through COVID. We can make it through anything.
Thank you, Cornisha. Hakeem, what is your position on Measure G?
Thank you. I think that for me, the rest of this panel might want to tell citizens of Vallejo what to do and how to vote. I would disagree. It's our job to put it on the ballot and let the people decide. I think that that's what's very important. Smart cities are putting it on the ballot and letting the people decide. Now, as a private citizen, my concerns would be oversight and how the money will be used. If it passes, as your mayor, I would focus on opening up the Glen Cove Fire Station to ensure that we have quick medical responses. I would use it to clean up the city and all the trash. I would also use it to address police reform and implementing the OIR report, which doesn't get talked about. We can do an OIR report, but if we don't fund it, then how do we change our police department? I would also use it to address our youth and youth facilities and creating opportunities. I would also use it to address early childhood education, which we know is so very important when it comes to the destinies of our kids, as well as apprenticeship programs. But if it does not, I respect the will of the people. It is not council's job to sit up on Mount Olympus and decide what's best for people when we have so many different issues going on in our community, as well as a pandemic. So from where I'm sitting, it's up to the people to decide. And then we have to figure out a way, whether if they don't want it, then we respect that. And we need to figure out other pathways to success. But if they do pass it, we need some oversight and we need to use it wisely.
Thank you, Hakeem. John, I see you're back on. Can you hear me? John? I guess not. So I'll conclude there.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, so we are going to move forward with question number 6. And question number 6 will be read by Kay Patrice Williams. Patrice, you will be starting with John, and we'll try one more time with him. We'll just keep trying each question, and if John can get in, great, but if not, then we'll move on to the next one, okay?
Okay, understood. Number 6 for John. If elected, John, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing? John, try to unmute yourself. You're muted, sir. Let's give you one more second. No audio, John, so I'll move on, but I will loop back to you at the end. Maybe that'll give you some time. So the question now will go to Robert McConnell. Let me repeat the question though. Robert, if elected, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
Thank you. As you know, I'm kind of a financial watchdog. I always have been. Being a financial services lawyer and helping so many people in financial distress has taught me many, many lessons over these many decades. First off, I would advocate for the renting of 400 Mare Island Way. When it was taken off the tax rolls, it removed $225,000 worth of tax dollars that were available to government and agencies. By renting it, we will be able to get direct payments for that space and be able to use it for a much wiser position and ultimately, hopefully, sell that building when the market comes back, but it's not there now. We need to continue to increase our financial reserves. They were built through special and very regulated and restricted spending patterns. We said no to things that we would like to say yes to because we knew we had to have that reserve. And now that COVID has come, there is a legitimate reason to have that. I believe that the city council should have a subcommittee on finance and budgeting, which it does not have. Most cities do. We need 3 people who are going to be able to become highly informed on our budget and watch where the money is going. So we track them by vendees. We also need to make it easier for people to do business with the city. We can continue to use funds in the police department to make it more user-friendly than it is now. And because we are paying still probably the 2nd highest rate of income to our law enforcement officers in the entire state. Let's face it, we don't have the tax bases that will justify that. It's not there.
Thank you. Cornisha, same question. If elected, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
Well, I definitely think that we need to first look at the budget. I want to look entirely with a microscope at every single dollar being spent. I, for one, do not understand why we're making an extended bus stop right now during a time when I just think we have enough bus stops. I think we would make sure that our bus lines are extended so that people can get to work and actually get income that they need to support their families. So longer bus routes and benefits for the bus operators. as well. Am I disconnected? Am I okay here?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I definitely want to look at all contracts and make sure that those contracts are good options for our city. I believe sometimes we're contracting out to people, and I want to first give jobs and opportunities and contracts to people who are here in this city. So I'm all about Vallejoans, period. We want to make sure that Vallejoans have opportunities first. I want to ensure that all of our small and commercial businesses are doing okay. We want to check on and survey every single business and know how they're doing and what their needs are. And we want to give opportunities to people who have been having issues with getting businesses started. We want to start with them, find out what the issues are, and get them hopefully moving through the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce. And especially, this is a fun one, marketing incentives for people to spend money in this community at different businesses and to provide delivery services for our businesses.
Thank you, ma'am. Hakeem, the same question. If elected, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
That's a great question, Ms. Williams. What I would do is increase revenue. I think one of my panelists spoke about being a financial watchdog. That means you're looking at the pie and an ever shrinking pie. I'm a business owner. I'm looking to expand the pie. I'm looking to find out how we can create more revenue and be creative in our revenue. We can't continue to be paralysis by analysis, no vote after no vote while nothing gets done, while our city moves in the wrong direction. I would be creative. I'd like to assess city properties and see what properties are valuable, which ones can we possibly look at unloading. I would look at, quite simply, what are small things that we can do? Dispensaries currently are their dispensary hours. If we increase some of those hours, we'd actually probably increase the budget by about $1 million. City council has taken forever to take a look at that. That's small. That's something that a smart council should be able to do very quickly. So I would look at increasing revenue. For too long, this city has never known how to hunt. As your mayor, I would be a dog that could hunt. As a business owner, our last time that we really increased revenue was under a mayor who was a business owner, Mayor Terry Curtola. And I think that is very important. We need people who understand business, who understand revenue, who understand how to stay in the black and really look at what are the opportunities instead of just focusing on what we just have. That is a problem. And that's a slap in the face in the community, because with an ever shrinking budget, we are cutting quality of life. When we look at the amount of shootings in this community,
Thank you, sir.
when we look at the trash and we look at a number of different issues. Thank you.
Avenel, same question. If elected, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
Thank you. A city in terms of public relations has been awful. And one of the things that we have to do is sell our city in a way that other businesses and other people would like to come to our city. That's part of bringing in revenue. Opening up a space where businesses and the community can collaborate in a way that supports increase in prosperity. I mean, I think some of the things that we tend to not look at is entertainment. We have tourism. We bring in a lot of people into our city, and it's not highlighted. It's not talked about. We need places for people to stay. And one of the reasons why we don't have as much tourists is because we don't have the space for them to stay. That is revenue. We are a pathway in the Bay Area, but no one stops. So why aren't we stopping? It's right there for us to do, and we're not doing it. And so I think looking at all the areas that we can possibly bring into, but making ourselves visible as a place that we are stable. And if we cannot show that we have stability, we can say as much as we like, but it's not going to happen. So it's really about how we work together in bringing in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
John, let's give it another try. Let's do a test. Can you confirm that you can hear me and we could hear you? You're garbled. Let's give it another try. Yeah, you're garbled. Let's give it another try. That audio is breaking up. No, no. Oh, sir, we can't hear you. No. No, sir. It's garbled for me. Sorry about that, John. James, I believe we're ready for the next question.
Yes, we are. Thank you. That concludes question number 6. We will move to question number 7, and that will be given to us by Alma Hernandez. Alma?
Thank you. We're going to start with Robert. And the question is, if elected, what steps, sorry.
Nope.
Okay. If elected, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
No. No. No.
No? Okay.
Next question.
There we go. On June 1st, Vallejo businesses were looted and the city imposed a curfew. If you were a city council member and a similar event occurred, what would you do?
Well, I believe that the mayor and the city manager were correct in calling out the National Guard. There is criteria by which that is supposed to be done, and that is a power of the city manager first, particularly under an emergency declaration as we have under COVID. And secondly, the mayor, the city council really does not have a role in that. But I would also want to bring in mutual aid. The other thing I have respect for is what occurs in Europe. When they have demonstrations that they feel need to be halted, they bring out the fire department with water cannons, which is a much better way to address the problems than with rubber bullets or live arms or billy clubs. I would definitely agree with the curfew. I think that was a wise decision. I would encourage and possibly explore grants for better lighting around businesses, because when you have better lighting, crime is reduced. We also probably need to give more thought to a rapid response coordinated effort than we've done before. This police department did as well as they possibly could, with some exceptions, of course. But there needs to be a general plan. And the last time the city council explored the emergency responses or the evacuation procedures was probably back in 2007. It hasn't been revisited since then. It needs to be looked at again and brought up to date and modernized, because we're missing a lot of opportunities that the change in technology has provided.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Cornisha. On June 1st, Vallejo businesses were looted and the city imposed a curfew. If you were a city council member and a similar event occurred, what will you do?
I think our mayor, Bob Santayan, did a great job, and Greg Neff did a great job with that. Only thing I think that we could do a little differently is that, on top of making sure that we communicate better with the community regarding the decision. And, I think they did, but just kind of, showing yourselves and explaining to the community why. And, and I think a lot of people still didn't get the message. They went out there and they saw guards and they were like shocked. But of course the National Guard were not shooting people randomly. So, they handled themselves very professionally, and it was good. I do agree with how that was handled. I think that, we should respond for the aftermath with communicating with the businesses that were looted, and to make sure that we are helping them to raise funds and do fundraising or whatever is necessary to help them get back on their feet quickly. That's something that we can think about doing, and making sure we have a plan in order in the future. And but overall, yeah, I think it went well.
Thank you. Hakeem, on June 1st, Vallejo businesses were looted and the city imposed a curfew. And if similar events occurred, if you were a city council member and a similar event occurred, what would you do?
Thank you. Number one, I agree with the steps that were taken. As far as calling the National Guard, I agree with what Robert said. I would say, and I'm a business owner whose business they did attempt to loot. Where me and Robert would disagree is water cannons when people are using assault rifles and the amount of gunfire that I saw out there, better lighting. A lot of businesses have great lighting. That did not stop the large number of looters. And I would disagree. I think that we really saw council decisions over the last 10 years come back to haunt us. Our police department got overran almost. And those people, those looters knew that. We don't have enough officers on the street, traffic officers. We had to call in help, and every city did. Looters knew that we did not have enough resources on the ground, and that is directly related to council. As well as growing youth opportunities, which Robert was a no vote on. We've got to sit there and invest in our youth. We've got to create livable wage jobs. I voted to include in the budget ways that we can address systemic racism and address lack of opportunity for our youth. Robert was a no vote. So council actually can play a huge part in what happens and whether, when it comes to those kinds of situations. But I see that situation as a result of poor leadership. These young people don't have jobs. They don't have opportunity. We have not invested in early childhood education. We have not invested in our police department to make sure that our city's safe, and looters and criminals know that. So I think that council needs to take strong steps to prevent those things in the future. We do that by investing in our community, by understanding that we can't vote no on everything when we have a city crumbling around us. Thank you.
Thank you. Abonel, on June 1st, Vallejo businesses were looted and the city imposed a curfew. If you were a city council member and a similar event occurred, what would you do?
I think that before June 1st, I would have addressed the city because there were events around the country that garnered that behavior. And what needed was those citizens to be validated that they're hurting and that they're feeling as though they're not being protected. And it was a protest. It was a protest. And I think one of the things that we as a city must begin to do is preventative care. Talking to our citizens and acknowledging that they're angry and that they're hurt and that healing needs to happen was needed in advance. Speaking to, as mayor, speaking with the law enforcement and discussing like this is going to happen because people needed to stand up and stand out and speak on what was happening in our community and around the country. And so it was something that was going to happen. And so taking the preventative course and stepping up and speaking and validating our citizens could have prevented some of the stuff that took place. And that's one of the things I think it's crucial in our city. We function very much in crisis mode. And when we begin to function in preventative, we will have better outcomes to challenging situations. I think it's important for us to protect our small businesses. And however, as a city, we have to do the preventative so that the challenges do not occur as what happened with many of our businesses. But also, I think validating the feeling of a community as to what was happening to avoid a situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, John, can you hear us? Can you try unmuting yourself? The question for John as well, just to provide it, is on June 1st, Vallejo businesses were looted and the city imposed a curfew. If you were a city council member and a similar event occurred, what would you do? If you would like to provide your response on the chat window, please go ahead and do so if you are unable to verbally provide that response here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just so all the attendees know, we have been trying to get John unmuted. There seems just to be an issue with it not being the right timing. I'm not sure how we get to hear him, but we will follow with what Alma just suggested, which is for all these questions, John, please go ahead and write in your response into the chat box, and then we will read that response as we go through the rest of the night. And I apologize to everybody that we're not able to hear John's voice right now, but we are working on it. So for the next set of questions, I'm sorry, there's a lot of people typing into chat right now, and it's taking up a lot of. Okay, John, are you there?
I'm here. I'm unmuted.
You're very you're very choppy, John. It's really hard to hear what you're saying right now.
I will go.
Okay.
Friend. So I guess it's gonna get muted. Well, you'll have to be cut me rather because you me on your end.
Okay. We just aren't hearing anything.
Trying, so yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, John. We're going to move on to question number 8 right now. And question 8, we will start with Cornisha. Cornisha, this is a simple one, or not. Homelessness, what can be done? 90 seconds.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, my connection is unstable. I feel so bad for Mr. Kearney. Yeah, I came sorry. So homelessness, what can be done? I think a lot can be done. You know, as far as there are so many, there's already funding that has been put in place by the City Council and our Honorable Mayor, Bob Sampayan, with the project for the homeless coalition that's happening and a grant that was received, $2 million, I believe. So I think that is a great start. There's also other things that can be done. We have Alstom that is here in Mare Island. I know that they can help provide, temporary stations that we can have for making like for campsites for people, and giving them places that they can, be clean and things like that, temporarily. But we need to definitely provide social care, social services. I've been homeless before in my life. So this is something I take very seriously. But I just definitely think we need to put more social service care, hygiene kits, and people of the church community and get our church community involved. I think that'd be ideal, and get ambassadors in the community to support them and to consistently check on them. Thank you.
Cornisha, thank you. Hakeem, homelessness, what can be done?
Thank you, Jim. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I attend the Homeless Roundtable regularly, which is something that we have with different nonprofit groups that work to address homeless issues. Volunteered for the mobile health unit, which is volunteer doctors to serve our those who are without housing. And I think that we as a council, we've championed the navigation center that we have opening up this year, as well as permanent supportive housing, Eden housing that we should have coming in a couple of years. But more importantly, we have to build more housing. We have not done that. We have to focus on building affordable housing. We are woefully behind as a city when it comes to building more housing. And that's really, though we were able to pass some rent control ordinance, rent control alone will not address homelessness. We have got to create more housing. We've got to create more jobs, livable wage jobs. This community does not have opportunity here. And those are things that I think that we need to do to address our homeless issue. We can't just sit there and depend on the county and the state. We need to create opportunity for our community. We need to be able to create livable wage jobs. We need to be able to create opportunity as well as affordable housing and building housing. We are going to have to be in a build first mentality, or if not, this issue is only going to continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem. Avanel, homelessness,
Yes.
what can be done?
There's many different things that can be done, and I concur with my fellow candidates. However, I think one of the things that we miss in terms of addressing, the homeless crisis is that, working with the community. We do need, great if we have a navigation center. However, we don't have that right now. I think working with the community in many different areas, in real estate, property owners, in terms of creating an avenue for those who are in homeless crisis to be housed immediately, and most importantly, creating a homeless crisis unit where there's case management to each one of our homeless citizens, so that they can be set on a path of rehabilitation, because not everyone will be going into a job, but creating a place where they can be successful as residents is important. And so first addressing the healing process, and create an opportunity for that healing process in terms of resources. I think that's very crucial in beginning to address that. What do we have now? We can talk about what can be done, but what can we do with what we have so we can move forward?
Thank you, Avanel. Thank you. So John, I know you've been having some sound difficulties, but for all of our attendees, John has been answering this question in the chat area. John will continue to look for your chats, your chat answers, and everyone please pay attention to what's in that box. We will go ahead and move on to Robert. Robert, homelessness, what can be done?
You're right. It's not a simple question at all. When I was on the planning commission, we approved every housing project that was brought to us, and it still wasn't enough. So if we're going to solve this problem, we're going to have to build. But we also need to build smartly. There are different reasons why people are homeless, and the type of reason contributes to the type of housing that is needed. People who are seniors have different needs than with mental impairments, vocational needs, or substance abuse, and they all have to be addressed with the different types of housing. It's not going to happen unless it's economically feasible, which means the city and the mayor need to team up with the state legislators and the federal government to offer incentives for developers. That's the only way affordable housing is done now, is through tax incentives. We could reinvent the old equity share program where we sponsored the investment of people who want to buy a house, and they split the increase in equity when the equity provider puts up the down payment. We could introduce and bring portable showers. Somebody cutting in. Portable showers to the homeless camps. We can provide garbage service, garbage bags, and garbage pickup. I know some of the city attorneys are fearful that if we do that, we will legitimize the camp. I don't see it that way. And finally, we need to coordinate more with the county on what they're doing and should be doing, both on fairgrounds properties and other county properties as well.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, John, do you want to give it a try? Can you hear us? Yeah, okay. So we're just not hearing from him. Okay, so let's move on to question number 9. And question number 9 will be given to us by Sue. Sue, we will be starting with Hakeem.
Let me unmute myself. Hakeem, what is an example of a time when you brought 2 opposing groups together to accomplish a task for the greater good?
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Well, number one, I would say in my last campaign, I helped work on Measure S, which brought money for our schools and revenue for our schools. It was a school bond, and which brought people from all over the community to work on this issue to help improve our schools. That was from every different side, and that was something that we as a community were able to work on together. I've worked on creating a community benefits program here in our city, and that has included labor, environmentalists, youth.
Me for change.
So those are just some of the examples where I've worked to bring different opposing groups. In my time on council, after the first police shooting, in my time on council, I made it a point to sit down with the police chief and every Black organization in Solano County so that they can ask the hard questions, not only of the police chief, but myself as well. And those are just some examples of ways that I've brought different groups together to some of our answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem. Next, Avanel, what is an example of a time when you brought two opposing groups together to accomplish a task for the greater good?
One of my focus has been is about education and family and parenting. And I've done symposiums that brought together many different members of the community to work with our families and discuss how our education can be improved. I think one of the things that looking at a city as a whole, you know, when you have a city that focuses on family and education, it's succeeding. And that's important for me, because when we prioritize our youth and the education of our youth, it's a big part of a city succeeding. And so in many different areas, I mean, we do have families and who have lots of challenges, and bringing together areas where it's important for that particular population and the education system to come together. And as a community, it's important for us to value those group of people. I mean, there's other areas where I have brought community members to address homelessness and food disparities. And so looking at how do we as a community focus on the foundation of our community and bringing everyone together for our success.
Thank you, Avanel. John, you're next. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? Okay, John, if you can see the question, I'm going to read it to you. And if you can't hear me, if you could just type in your answer. What is an example of a time when you brought two opposing groups together to accomplish a task for the greater good? And I think John cannot hear us. So I'm going to move on to Robert. Robert, what's an example of a time when you brought two opposing groups together to accomplish a task for the greater good?
Well, that's one of the things that the mayor really needs to do, is to bring opposing groups together. I spent 3 days learning how to be an arbitrator with the American Arbitration Association. I had a great opportunity with the city to put those skills to work. I'm one of the 3 people who negotiated the garbage contract we have today. And to do that, we had to reach a common ground with the ecology who wanted more money and more concessions. Instead, we were able to make them see the wisdom of providing 2 bulk pickups per year to households, the wisdom of servicing the green containers that we have for distribution of litter throughout the city. And had I not been trained as a mediator, I might not have been able to do that, because you have to recognize where people are coming from. You have to convince them that you're neutral to begin with, and you're not there to take one side or another. Another example is when the COVID hit, and some of the business owners came to me, particularly the restaurants, and said, we're gonna die if this isn't changed. And I was able to bring the city management together to waive the development fees, to streamline the development process and get those businesses open. So I'm very good at being a mediator. I'm often in the middle of things, which is why I see things from both sides. And that's probably one of the areas where I really shine.
Thank you, Robert. Cornisha,
Yes,
what is
ma'am.
an example of a time when you brought two opposing groups together to accomplish a task for the greater good?
I'm going to try to get through 5 examples really quick. The first one is working with foster and probation youth. Working with young people ages 15 to 25, sometimes you're going to have conflict, from of all kinds, whether there's gang association or if there's just a girl don't like that girl because she looked this way, or whatever the issues are. Just being able to put on great shows and help them to become news newscasters, and create their own shows and TV production was a great accomplishment. Working with social services in the fiscal department, bringing together, there was some issues with diversity, not the word, one department thinks one thing about the other department, and because they're different cultures and background, we just had to stop all that and then, look, we're here to work together, and we just create a culture where everyone can work together and be happy and celebrate each other's differences. Also, with Career Night, I developed this program, and I brought together 150 youth with 100 mentors at an event called Career Night, and helped them get access to their careers. And that was difficult because people in the community had to believe that it was possible and happen. The other one was create jobs for interns, job internships for youth who were looking for jobs, and convincing people in the community that they weren't going to steal from them and that they could do it and that they were wonderful kids. That happened. And finally, working with Oakland Unified School District and Alameda County Office of Education to help bring progress reports and help our youth get credits for their life skills training with Alameda County.
Thank you, Cornisha.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our 9th question. We will now proceed with our final question for the evening. That will be asked to the candidates by Kay Patrice Williams. And Patrice, you'll be starting with Avenel.
Thank you. I believe this is the best question of the night, personally. Avenel, what is your long-term vision for Vallejo, and how do we get there?
All the questions have been wonderful, but this is sort of like the cherry on the cake, or the icing cream. I don't know. Yeah, my long-term vision is we have a coin, the spirit of the Bay, and what does that mean? That means that we are the heart and soul of the community of the Bay Area, and to show that in our success, show that in our education system, show that in our collaboration, show that in the way that we support our community members during cultural events. We have we are one of the most diverse cities, and highlighting the treasures that we have in our city, we're missing out on that. The long-term vision for me is that we're financially stable, and all areas of our infrastructure is a model to other communities that have had challenges, and showing that when we come together as a city for a common goal, which is success of every individual, and our safety and security, that we can be a model to many different areas that have had some of our challenges. I think we have that. I don't want to say we have a potential, because potential is like you're doing something but you're not making it happen. And so making it happen, we have a vast. Thank you.
John, let's give it another try. Can you hear me? And let's see if I could hear you.
Patrice, John has actually done a good job with answering the last couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
So thank you, John, for working with us on that side. And again, we apologize to our attendees and our candidates for any technical difficulties they're experiencing.
Thank you, James. So the next question goes to Robert. Robert, what is your long-term vision for Vallejo, and how do we get there?
Well, that's certainly the dream, and I would like to see it accomplished. One of the ways we get there is by having people respect one another, be courteous to one another, and practice the golden rule. Because if both government people and also citizens and business people in this city practice that, I think you will see a diminishment in the harshness with which they treat one another today. More specifically, we're going to have to rely upon our specific plan and our general plan, because they are the charts for growth. And I believe that we are pursuing them, but like all things, it does take time. one of the things a mayor can do is to be a salesman. I've sold door-to-door encyclopedias when I was in college. I know how to close. So by going out with the economic development team and the other Chamber of Commerce representatives and Convention Business Bureau representatives to trade shows and businesses that express an interest in there, the mayor can be there, but he's got to have a dependable system in building and planning to back him up to make this stuff happen. We also need to have a dependable tax base, which means we do have to grow our tax base, whether it's with small businesses or large businesses, because without the tax base, no matter what our dreams are, we will fall short. More than anything else, I want to see people respected by their government. And currently there is this feeling that they're not being respected. You see it in the communication articles, you see it in their attitudes about why aren't we involved earlier. We need to bring more people into the process earlier and more often. I think that was a big success of PB, which I championed on a 4-3 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Cornisha, what is your long-term vision for Vallejo and how do we get there?
Well, I really just see Vallejo being the epitome of the American dream, being a place where anyone who is, the people who are doing business here, are small businesses, they can come up, and traditional families and heritage is really celebrated here, where people have an opportunity to have dual income households, and that we're being Vallejo loyal. We're being loyal to Vallejoans and making sure that they're getting jobs here and that they're able to start businesses, and that we're doing everything that we can to help them to do that, as well as becoming a national hotspot for commerce, where people would want to come here for us to do their customer services, being a very hospitable place, a place that has a lot to offer our nation. Has a lot to offer our nation. And a place of innovation, and again, traditional values and heritage and family. This would be a place for families. And I definitely firmly believe that we will be a place that invests so much into our youth leadership and youth businesses that it will just become a powerhouse. Or the energy of our youth will just take storm, and this place is going to just boom. And we definitely want a surplus here. I especially expect a surplus here. We're going to cut where we need to cut, and we're going to enhance and then create opportunities and put money here through innovation.
Thank you. Hakeem, what is your long-term vision for Vallejo and how do we get there?
Thank you, Ms. Williams. My long-term vision for Vallejo is a city where our motto as a city of opportunity, we actually live it. We focus on economic development and creating revenue in our community, being a pro-business city where businesses know that instead of it taking 2 months longer to complete a project, it'll take 2 months shorter to complete that project, and businesses want to come here. I envision a city where we use that revenue to support our youth and early childhood education, creating youth facilities, mentoring programs, livable wage jobs, apprenticeship programs, and ensuring that being from Vallejo leads to a pipeline of success instead of a pipeline of tragedy. My vision for Vallejo is a city that understands what it means when a mother sends their kid out of the house to just walk. That worry that is that child coming home. My vision for the city is a city that cleans itself up, that cleans up the trash, that has the staff and the revenue to take care of its city. My vision for the city is a city where economic development is able to pay for public safety, true public safety, a city where we don't have sideshows going on for 2 and 3 hours, a city where we don't have fire stations closed and our seniors don't have access to healthcare in a timely manner, a city where it doesn't feel like Beirut, depending on where you live, and where people are afraid to come out of their house. To do that, we need strong leadership. We need people who understand business. We need people who aren't going to be a no vote, but are going to be a yes vote. Taking action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem. So before we go to our concluding statements, I'm going to read John's answer to this question. It's broken up into a couple of parts, so just bear with me. So John, I'm going to do my best here. So John says, as mayor, I would prioritize economic and small community business rebuilding and green jobs, jobs, jobs for a brighter future. Next point, reimagine safety and community policing for all Vallejoans with increased youth and educational involvement. Next point, a more beautiful and inclusive Vallejo from the top of the bay to Mare Island to our majestic hills. Next point, economic and small and community business rebuilding and green jobs, jobs, jobs for a brighter future. I, John B. Kenney, along with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and soon-to-be Veep Kamala Harris, I've marched for progress and the Green New Deal, now the Climate Equity Act. Now in this unprecedented time of multiple crises, we have historic consecutive days of spare the air smoke, shocking fires throughout the state. We see record-breaking heat in the Death Valley and here in the Bay. In 2019, here in Vallejo, I helped to get laws passed on clean energy and voter participation for all, and to bring jobs, jobs, jobs to Vallejo. None of the 3 council members, and then it cuts off. Next point, reimagine safety and community policing for all Vallejoans with increased youth and educational involvement. John B. Kenney does not agree with either of the present status quo city council members who have allowed policing community relations to plummet to such a crisis near laughingstock situation. Additionally, just throwing more good money after bad, as these 2 do-nothing council members suggest, does help the circumstance. Against their arguments and for the status quo and faux reform, John B. Kenney agrees with the Biden-Harris team that we must invest in safety for our community first. Specifically in reimagining police community relations, we need to provide meaningful educational and economic opportunity in all areas of our community. More job opportunity, access to good food and housing, and banking is an absolute minimum. We must ensure that violent and destructive crime is dealt with rapidly and with adequate strength, but also realize that when only 10% to 20% of 9/11 calls.
I'm sorry, James, I'm going to interrupt you because we're at over the minute and a half.
Okay, very good, very good. Again, for all of our attendees, please look at the chat to read the rest of his comments. He did answer this last one in multiple pieces. So we will now move to our concluding statements, and to do so, we will go ahead and we will start with Robert McConnell. Robert, you're going to have 2 minutes for your concluding statements.
Well, thank you very much to the organizers and the panelists and the participants in this exchange. I found it very enlightening from all people, and I appreciate your thoughts and your willingness to help out improve our city. I came to this city to build a business. My partner and I at that time created, built, increased, and ultimately sold that business. I'm still involved with 2 businesses here in town. The primary emphasis, of course, has been as a financial services lawyer. That has given me an opportunity to understand how government works. I have a bachelor's in public administration, graduate study. I was writing my master's thesis on the right of the public employee to strike, which was Vallejo was the first city to strike. I know the history of this town because of that research and having lived in the general area. But more especially as mayor, I've been able to develop the skills of a personality that will fit the office. I don't flare up, I don't lash out, I don't attack, I listen to issues. When you're listening to issues, you exclude arguments about personalities. Because when you get into arguments about personalities, you belittle yourself and you belittle those to whom you're speaking. So as a mayor, I will encourage cooperation and a stronger council. One of the first things I would do as mayor is to bring all council members together without the necessarily close involvement of staff and find out what each one of them wishes to accomplish. This is even more significant now that we're going to district elections. And we need to listen to these people who are going to know their districts so very well and find out what they want to do rather than continuing to do what the city staff and the city wants to do. As a mediator, I know how to hear people and to find the common ground. And that is what a mayor has to do. He has to be neutral. He has to be encompassing of all values. He has to provide for an open, equal, fair hearing for everyone involved. So with those skills, my personality, my ability to listen, and my ability to ask questions that will provide that information, I can reach what needs to be done and lead it to a policy that will help this city move forward.
Hey, thank you.
So I'm asking for you asking your vote on November 3rd. Vote McConnell.com.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you. We will now move on to Cornisha Williams Bailey for her closing statements. Cornisha, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. So in closing, I wonder if many of you know the history of Vallejo. Like, did you know about the monitor submarine that sunk in about 1846? And that was one time that it was actually pulled back out the water and we restored it here on their island? Or did you know about the rich Filipino history of the Filipinos that came here to fight alongside of us in World War II and then were denied the opportunity for citizenship? Or did you know about the Native American history or the Californios? Well, there's a lot of great rich history and heritage here in Vallejo. And you probably don't know about it yet. And same with me. You don't know me yet either, but I can guarantee you that my values, my work ethic, and my dedication to this city is real and as rich as our history here. Besides my background as a business owner and contractor as an operations manager with Alameda County at the tender age of 21, and my foster care background, I am very much connected with media and production, and I'm have a great experience in mass production. I've worked on farms. There's nothing that you cannot bring to me. There's nothing that you can say to me that I don't understand and probably have been through or know someone that's been through it professionally or personally. I know how to hit the ground running. When I'm mayor, I'm not afraid to get out into these streets. I'm not afraid to do the work that is necessary, and I have the energy to do it. I definitely believe that we want to create a positive public image for our community, and I'm that person that can do it. I'm that person that will go nationwide to bring businesses and money into our community and making sure that they're hiring youth. Also, to make sure that we're getting resources for our businesses. Together, we have to be inclusive, we have to be innovative, and we have to improve. But God bless Vallejo and America. This is America's dream. Vote for me.
Thank you, Cornisha. Thank you. Next, we'd like to hear for closing statements from Hakeem Brown. Hakeem, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jim. And I'd like to thank all of our listeners and people for tuning in and weighing in, definitely paying attention. We are living through unprecedented times, and this election is the biggest election in decades. And we do have to make some hard decisions. Do you want a mayor who quietly and calmly allows the city to go over a cliff, who quietly and calmly has seen more police-related shootings in the history of Vallejo, who quietly and calmly has not addressed our youth, who quietly and calmly has done nothing to address the amount of murders in our community and our youth who don't have the opportunity that other youths have in all surrounding cities? Or do you want a fighter? Do you want a mayor who's going to fight to ensure that we have economic development? Do you want a mayor who's going to fight for our youth and early childhood education to make sure that our youth get the same opportunities that other cities have? Do you want a mayor who's going to fight to ensure that we can lower crime and address police reform? Or do you want a mayor who's going to sit there, put their finger to the wind and vote no? It's time to move this city forward. As a native Vallejoan, I've watched this city move in the wrong direction for the last 10 years. There are people running for mayor who've been architects of where we're at, and it's been a disaster. We've had enough. It's time for our city to move forward. It's time for our youth to learn what a livable wage job is, what it means to have housing, what it means to have opportunity in this community. And as your mayor, I will address those things. I will not sit there and hide. I will not sit there and make excuses why I can't get the job done. I'm going to build consensus, as you've seen me do. We've accomplished more in my 2 years in city council than the city council has accomplished in the last 10 years. Fact check that. And I appreciate it, and I hope that I will have your vote come November. Hakeem Brown for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hakeem. Okay, finally, for our last closing statements, we present Avenel. Avenel, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you. And I want to say thank you to our community members who tuned in. And I know you have your questions. And thank you for your patience. And to my fellow candidates, thank you for your presence. And for the host, thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity. You know, our city is a beautiful city. I came to Vallejo over 21 years ago as a young 30-something-year-old. and I invested in real estate and our families and the people. I have neighbors that have been here for less than a year and that have been here for over 30 years. And I think for me, I speak to all of our community, not just a few, not just some, but all of them. I step into every single demographic as an immigrant, as a person of African descent, as a person who is a part of the LGBTQ community. And I'm over 50, not real senior, but I'm feeling it. And so I see, and I've worked in the mental health personally and professionally community in the homelessness population. We need a mayor that can assertively and innovatively with calm address our people. Our people need in this climate is we don't need chaos. We need assertiveness, and we need steps that's going to help to bring our community together collaboratively, in partnership, and in unity. We don't need division. We don't need separation. We need collaboration and unity. And as mayor, that is what I bring. And bring in all the skills and expertise of all our amazing residents. And that's what, for me, as mayor, I will give to you as our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Abinel. Thank you. And then for John, for your closing statements, I'm going to read what I've seen him post here in the chat, which is for all the panelists. I'm not sure it's getting to all of you attendees. John says, time for a new vision for Vallejo without all the obstructionism. Time for real change, not the faux reforms some do-nothing council members are crying after the crisis is already causing so much pain and suffering, so many lawsuits, so many spare the air days. Next, the council wouldn't even do the no-brainer, no pain, huge gain on clean energy until they were forced to vote on it. Our world is literally on fire and they can't even be bothered to do the simple local change for good. Now they claim reform, and that as mayor, they can do more. More what? More nothing. And then neither of the council members is any sort of change agent, just old cats trying to get on new stripes until they get in. And that's all the comments I have from John in the chat. So that does bring us to the end of our evening. It was a somewhat choppy evening. We apologize for the technical snafus. I would like to ask the candidates if they do have a few minutes. We will go ahead and we can leave this on. And if you look down in your Q&A section, I can see there's a lot of questions down there that have been asked by attendees. So if you want to take a little time, go through some of these questions, and if there's any you want to answer, we'll go ahead and leave this on for a period of time, and that will give you some time to do that. For now, what I'd like to do, though, again, is say thank you to all of our candidates. Thank you to our moderators, to the VCA members that joined us tonight. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us as well. I hope that tonight was enlightening for everybody in terms of the candidates and their views. And what's really important about what you're hearing tonight is that you go out and you vote, because that is where you can make a difference, have your voice be heard. Engage these candidates outside of the forum, look for them, communicate with them, learn more about their views, learn more about what they want to do for the city, and ask them questions, some of which you probably posed tonight and you didn't get responses for. So for everybody tonight, my name is James Cooper with the Vallejo Chamber of Commerce. And again, I thank you for joining us. We will leave the forum open for the next 20 minutes and allow candidates time to look at some of these questions and hopefully answer some. So thank you very much, candidates, and thank you to all of our moderators.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to stay on to answer questions.
I'd like to answer a question from Carol Zeman. And I think that question that Carol
I'm sorry,
poses-
Avanel, let me stop you. I'm sorry. We're going to stop the public and answer them in the questions, in the Q&A.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
We can create a printed document.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, candidates. Those of you that are still here, thank you for staying on. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to go ahead and end this event now. So it's still recording on Facebook. So we're going to go ahead and come to a close with this event. So hopefully you've been able to answer all the questions you wanted to answer. No? Well, Robert, what we're going to do, and for both of you, what we've done, once we are done with this, we have the ability to retrieve all the questions that were asked. So we'll make a point of getting these questions to you. It won't come with, I don't believe it will come with email addresses or ways for you to address the question directly. But if you feel like it's valuable information, then we're more than happy to provide you the entire list of questions.
Yeah, please, Mr. Cooper, could you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have Avanel, John, Robert, and Cornisha on, and Hakeem. I know he's already dropped, but we will get you the questions by tomorrow. And we have another one of these tomorrow night. So, but we'll have time in the day to get this over to all of you. And again, thank you for your patience tonight, and thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.